So you were adding a wood application to this piece. I'm just gonna zoom up real quick.
Applique.
There's a hawk flying. I don't know if you guys can see it. He's watching us. I don't know if that showed up. Big hawk. And this application came from Lowe's. It's wood, as mentioned earlier.
Yeah, they are kind of pricey, but it is good quality. At least I feel it's pricey because I'm cheap.
You're thrifty, not cheap. Using a toothpick again on this larger piece as well.
And honestly, you don't have to go this far with it, but me personally, I hate when the very edges of these things start to come off after a few years. And when they pop off, you can see all they did was do a thin line of glue right down the center. So those edges eventually lift, and then something will catch it, and then it'll break or come off. So by bringing the glue to the edges, kind of helps to prevent that from happening. That should be good. So this one is going this way, right?
Yeah. Yes.
Get those before I put it down. It's easier to get my finger in there now. So I look about centered.
Sure. I don't know for sure we're eyeballing it, which
you really shouldn't do, but
we're doing.
Kind of good at getting it close enough for government work, as they say. I like that. Alright.
And then the trusty brick method. You see some of our colors we've used before. Paint on the brick. Looks like Dixie Belle Mermaid Tail and Dixie Belle Pure Ocean. Yep. And you're gonna do a stand-up one in that middle part.
Yep. Actually, I definitely need to weight on there anyway.
It is October in Tallahassee, and even though it's October, almost end of October,
Yeah, we're definitely in the 90s.
it's high 90s right now.
They keep threatening us with a cold front, supposedly this weekend. But I think today's Friday, so
Yeah.
weekend's here, Mr. Weatherman. Alright.
Okay, we're gonna let this sit and then we'll check on them in a little bit. Hi everybody, so this is our latest project and it is laying down on a dolly on its back, and I took some pictures and actually a video of Jason from the Other Side Vintage attaching these wood appliques that we got, these wood card appliques we got from Lowe's. Here's the first one, here's the next one. We applied them because this thing is very plain. It is a cedar lined wardrobe that someone made a long time ago, and it just has the one drawer and the cabinet, and inside is the pole to hold the clothing, and this space between the door and the drawer inside the cabinet is to hold shoes. But that space, when it was plain without this wood applique, was just boring, and I'll have some pictures of the before, but I'm just going to show you. This is so we used black, can't remember which color we used in Dixie Belle, but we used a black, and then went over it with a greenish blue that we love, and that is Mermaid Tail. And then I'm going to do some highlights with Pure Ocean, and then I'm going to cover the entire thing in white fluff, and fluff, and then some other colors of white, which I will put those down when I'm done. You'll see that it's still damp a little bit here. I added some water to the Mermaid Tail so I could make sure that it got inside this area, and it's still not drying because it's 100% humidity. No, it's not 100%. It is probably 80% humidity with a storm right above us in Tallahassee, Florida. It's October and it is hot today still. So anyways, this is just to give you kind of a glimpse of it at one of the stages, and then we'll go from there. Any questions, you can always email us at theothersidevintage@gmail.com. Alright, so I added the white top to it, and it's got the green and the black coming through. Again, it's still on its back on a and I'm just not loving it. So I think I'm going to go with some light pink, Dixie Belle light pink, and either make it really bad or really good. And that's how sometimes the best things happen, is mistake after mistake, and then it becomes pretty. So let's give pink a try. We'll see what happens. Before I showed you that we did black, and then Mermaid Tail, and then Fluff, and now I didn't like how it looks, so I'm going it with soft pink and Dixie Belle, and this time I changed up my brush. I went from my Waverly to my Pro Impact, just a regular old, went from here to there to change up the way it looks. We added these earlier. Let me get some more of this on. We added these wood appliques that are carved earlier, and we have a video of that process. And now I am just trying to cover everything in pink before it gets to be too dark outside, and deal with it tomorrow. Sometimes I do. Look, I'm going to show you, I'm still spraying my brush, but this time I'm spraying both sides instead of just directly on there. I'm trying to make this kind of consistency a little bit watered down to get into all these little crevices. Now this brush, some of the hairs are coming off, and I'm not going to mess with it now. I'm going to wait until it's dry to go back and get those off instead of fussing with it. I'm trying just to get a good coverage. As you can see, it's drying though. It's some parts are peeking through already, so with the green, which is okay. But I'm gonna try to go over it a little bit more before it completely dries. Oops, see, if you get it too wet, what happens is you're pulling back up because this is getting wet and it's pulling back the green. So then when that happens and you don't want that to happen, stop, just let it dry completely, and then we'll deal with it after it dries. And I just realized that I have 2 end tables that I did in this, not the same green, I did it mint julep, then this pink. So when I stage them in the store, I will probably have them all close together, because they will go in the same room for the right person. They're pretty darn close. Again, I'm pulling that off too much, so I'm just going to let it because it's not completely dry. So the plan is just to get this on there. I'm trying to use the same strokes as I'm going this way here, this way here. And this brush tends to want to pull off the paint more than the other brush that I like. I'm going to wet it down again. Alright, we'll continue to do this process and then we'll show you later an update. So I made my own glaze. I should have shown you before. I took Peony by Dixie Belle and I did half water. And then before I mixed it, I noticed I didn't like how much water it was, so I poured out a little bit of water. So I'd say it's like 2 to 1, 2 paint, 1 water and Peony. And then I added a tiny tab of gray in there, which isn't really making a difference, so you can skip that part. And then you can see I'm just doing a wash. I'm trying to get a pop of pink on top of the pink I'm already doing. I'm going to go straight up. And I'm trying to get it in the corners because I want it to, there. I want it to settle in like a glaze and be wet. And then I don't want it to be on the top edges for me. Oops, I don't. So I'm going to wipe that down with a wet paper towel. And even though it's drying quicker and do it, it's leaving a little bit of hot pink. Actually, it's called Peony, so let's stick with that. Please don't fall over. Don't do what I'm doing. Don't lean stuff on stuff on stuff. And then, and yes, please lay it on its back. Because it's laying on its back. Oh no, don't do that. Let me fix that. That again. I don't want that swipe to be there. So I'm going to wipe this down real quick without hitting the edge. Oh, that's what I don't want. Keep wiping. Okay, now here's where the weird thing gets. I can't decide if I'm going to go all through here. Right now I think it just looks like a stripe. And it does. I think I'm going to go for it. I don't think it looks right. I think it looks... It looks like a kid did it. But I am a kid at heart. So, me. Here's my problem, is here. I need that to get in there as a glaze. What might end up happening, if I hate it, is I'll have to do the whole piece. Alright. Take a wet paper towel. Unfortunately, I got it on top of itself over and over again. just when you think it's a hot mess, that's when you're doing right. I'm going to come over there and swipe this down a little bit. You see this is dry too long, so it's staying, so that just may be the case. Ooh, try not to hit the paper towel in the groove. There, it's still coming off a little bit. Just don't know if I like this idea of part of this being covered, so I may just go ahead and do all that. I need another paper towel that's not. Okay, so I guess that's what I'm going to do. So yeah, this is a hot mess. At least that's what it looked like at first. It was just too bland to me. I kept staring at it. I didn't like it. I mean, it was doable. It was acceptable. But bland. Now the problem with this is that's a lot of water in there. So it may reactivate even though it's been dry for days. You know what? I don't know if I can't decide if I just, what do you think? Leave it there? If I wipe it down right now, it's going to grab the water that was in there. So I'm thinking let it dry a little bit and then pull the top off, but I don't know if the top will come off. And if I'm going to do that, I probably should do this one too, unless I just leave it on top. What do you think?
I think you should do this one too.
You do?
Yeah.
The problem is that there's so much water, because remember this is not paint now, it's a glaze, that the water is going to go, like it might run back towards the door, because there's so much. And when you do less, it loses its vibrancy. See what I'm saying? So it's not going to sit perfectly.
I think it looks good so far.
But when it comes around the edges, see how that one's like all the way around? For those who are watching, this just goes to show you that you have to just kind of play with things. And the way you learn sometimes, you can learn from professionals, which I'm not saying I am one, even though I get paid to do this occasionally. The way you learn is by making mistakes. So don't be afraid of trying something new and making either a mistake or a lovely, happy surprise that it turned out better than you can imagine by doing its own thing. Now you can see my dilemma. It's wetter down here than it is over here. Here's there's some, I don't know what I'm trying to say, specks. I don't want there to splatter. I want there to be liquid. So I'm just putting my brush in there. And this is a Waverly brush, by the way, for stenciling. I need a little bit more liquid here so it's not just splatters. Because when it lays upright, it's missing right there. I don't know why it doesn't. See how it's starting to do that? That's what I was afraid of. So, because I want it to be more, I'm going to carry it. Make it a little bit more roundish. Does that make any sense?
Absolutely.
Thanks for saying that. Even though that might not be true. I don't like these splashes up here. I wish it would be less, whatever. See how it's doing that little curly cue? I don't like that. Alright. If you use a mason jar to mix your stuff up in, you could save it for later. I definitely made a little bit more than I needed. always make more than you think, because you would rather have more than not and run out, because it's hard to make it when you're doing custom. Alright. I originally was just going to wipe this back. My problem is the paper towel will dip into that, because I don't want it to be, but then maybe I do want it to be. But then you see how this is like perfectly, this one got weird. See how it stops here but it goes out there? I can't decide, and as it's drying in the sun, I'm running out of time, whether just to let that stain the whole thing. Now it looks like see how it's streaky? I kind of didn't want that. I wanted it more. And see, there's so much more water here that's pulling up. I'm not sure what's happening. I was going to wipe it all the way back down, not just off the edges, but now, because of the sun being the way it is, I'm going to start sticking to what I've done. Which is a hot mess.
So will we come back for part 2 of this video?
Sure.